David Ricciardo and Brent Reid reporting through the Daily Telegraph. Broncos star Adam Reynolds confirms an approach from West Tigers as Lockie Galvin hits the open market. Adam Reynolds has confirmed he's received an approach from the West Tigers in a major recruitment bid by the Sydney club to cover the impending loss of rising star Lockie Galvin. Reynolds is currently without a contract at the Broncos next season. The West Tigers had denied any formal interest in Reynolds when contacted about rumours they were interested in the veteran playmaker a fortnight ago. But not forgetting that Richo, who's now at the West Tigers, he was at the helm of South Sydney when a young Adam Reynolds won the grand final. So there is some relationship there. And I would love to see him and Luai with Appy, with Buller at the back. That, to me, as a Tigers man, would love it. Thoughts?
Well, first of all, look, as a content guy, I'm loving how much Richo talks. It's great for me because it gets headline. We get to talk about it. But at the same time, I do think with the Tigers, like, just say no comment. Just say no comment. Because now it looks silly for the Tigers. They came out and said it didn't happen. And now all your fans are going, well, you know, I've just had 10 arguments with my mates saying it didn't happen.
Yep.
Now Renault's come out and said it did happen. I just think that maybe just pick your battles a little bit. In regards to Renault to the Tigers, mate, I think it's a great opportunity for A, Reynolds, but B, I think it's exactly what the Tigers could need.
Yeah, I love what some of the good clubs say. You know, we're always interested in chatting to good players. Like you say that to every single rumour, then no one can read anything into it.
Yeah, because you just go, oh yeah, we always keep things open. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Richo knows how to do that kind of thing. He's one of the best in the business.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't mind it. I think it'd be really good get for the Tigers, especially to help Latu Fainu develop as a young player. And also you got guys, other young core spine players that could learn quite a lot. And then you've got Luai that you could argue goes back to his preferred position for at least just a couple of years and plays 6.
Okay, Mark O'Neill through paraeels.com.au. He's the general manager of football at the Parramatta Eels. He's locked in some big guns here. Front rower Sam Tuivasa has extended his contract for a further 2 years. Centre Will Penasini, Tony Mataeli, who debuted recently, and playmaker Ronald Volkman have also extended with the club until the end of 2026. The latter one, that's a great story, isn't it, Ronald Volkman, for all he went through, and now he's having a contract extended. I think that's fantastic. Parramatta have also opened its new Centre of Excellence in Kellyville. Costs $70 million, capable of hosting 4,000 and hopefully playing NRLW games there. With these Centre of Excellences, and I'll never forget, Melbourne Storm were winning, it was at Gosh's Park or wherever they'd go, and they were, for a period of time, winning grand finals operating out of, what do you call them, the big silo things up.
Oh, yeah, portable.
Yeah, they were operating out of those.
Yeah.
And winning grand finals. And now we've got $70 million Centre of Excellence. How do we get a return ever on those Centre of Excellences?
Or are they community things? Does community have access? I'd assume they do.
You think they do?
Well, there's no way the Eels can afford one just to themselves, surely.
No.
And the government may be chipping in for that area. So I think the community gets to use it. So you got all the juniors, other sports.
Yep.
And that's how I think you get your return per se.
Okay.
We just got a quick text here, actually. Surely Latu Fainu will walk if Adam Reynolds went to the Tigers. Short-term insanity. Fainu's only 19 years old.
Yep.
I mean, you can wait till you're 20 and a half years old or 21 under Reynolds, surely, can't you?
Yeah. Well, Andrew, if you listened to the program earlier too, we're talking about the fact that Tallyn Da Silva, it's been reported that he will go to the open market if they re-sign Apisai Koroisau. So there you go there. Beak for Prime Minister, says Hillary. 1300-01-1170. Olympic Park, Hillstorm said. Yep, 1300-01-1170 is the way to have your say. What else have we missed for Chemist Warehouse? Rabbitohs to petition to return to Allianz Stadium. A petition for South Sydney to return to their heartland of Allianz Stadium has been backed by New South Wales Origin star Latrell Mitchell, who's on a self-imposed media ban. So just getting back to that, right? So the Rabbitohs are attempting to share the $800 million stadium at Moore Park next year. So that's what they're trying to do, is to get back there next year. These media bans from self-imposed from Spencer Leniu and Latrell Mitchell. Thoughts?
I don't mind it. I mean, like Latrell, like the Spencer one is such a unique situation. I kind of get it because it's so toxic and whatever. The Latrell one, look, he's given the game so many headlines.
Yeah.
Surely he's allowed to have one series without a media kind of because like from Latrell's perspective, every time he goes into Origin, it's about him, and there's all these headlines. And I know, people that don't like Latrell for whatever reason think that he enjoys that, but he doesn't. I know Trell. He is not the person. You don't judge Trell what you see on the field. He's not that kind of guy. And so I think Latrell Mitchell's actually earned the right to just go, you know what, media ban for this series, because he's given the game so many headlines, like just headline after headline after headline. We've got so many other players that can promote the game. I think he's earned the right. I really do.
Rugby league personalities, or even sporting personalities, who the perception of that person is very different to the real person. So, for example, I was lucky enough to play with Chock Mundine.
Yep. Oh, couldn't be more different.
Chock, and he, as a person, away from how everyone would see him, he's completely different.
Yep.
Completely different. You're kind of saying that may be the case with Latrell. Wayne Bennett, a lot of people say he's completely different to how rugby league may perceive him or the general community. Is that fair or not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like this whole idea that he's a grumpy old man all the time, and he's absolutely not. How do you think people love him so much? You don't love the grumpy guy. You love the guy that relates to you, understands you. And I think that, when you see a footy player, you're essentially seeing him in a fight.
Yep.
Like, when he walks across that white line, the version of him is the most ruthless, aggressive version possible within the rules. So, of course, that version of him he's not going to walk around trying to fight everyone all the time.
Latrell you're talking about?
We're just, Latrell even, but anyone. Anyone that's playing rugby league, you're seeing a very specific version of them. Rugby league is a violent game. It is a violent game. And so you're seeing a guy that is in a different headspace than he is when he's out of that. Like, for example, Jai Opetaia couldn't be more of a savage in the ring and leading up to a fight. Outside of that, couldn't be more of a gentleman. And so it's just an example of don't judge footy players just on the way they play. Give them a chance a little bit outside of it. I'm not saying every footy player is perfect, not at all, but, that's it.
Not so popular, a certain joke punch video. Furious Broncos poised to fine Reece Walsh over joke punch video. Adrian Prezenko writes in the Sydney Morning Herald, Brisbane likely to fine Reece Walsh over a social media post in which the star fullback punches a friend in the head while wearing a boxing glove. This comes days after the Broncos teammate Matty Tapau liked a social media post critical of coach Michael Maguire. Is it a storm in a teacup, or is there more to it? Beaky, you're a former Bronco, you're a Queenslander. What say you, young man?
Of course, don't post it. Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue with the younger generation is just go punch your mate in the head. I don't care. That's funny.
Okay.
Have a few beers. We've all been there.
Yep.
It's just the posting of it. Is it even a story? No, it's not even a story. Seriously, what are we talking about here? We're talking about a 22-year-old that put a glove on to his mate who was consenting and wanted to get punched in the head as a little joke. As I said, the worst he did about it was just post. But people that are carrying on about it's a terrible look and all this, give me a break. At what point do we have to accept that, yes, of course, if a player does something wrong that's a younger player, that is actually wrong, we are going to punish them. We're going to tell them not to. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to make 18 to 22-year-olds or 25-year-olds even, but we'll say 22-year-olds, they're always going to do silly things. So making a big mountain out of a molehill, I think it's absolutely nothing. I'm surprised we're even talking about it heading into Origin. We've got so much more better things to talk about. The worst thing he did was post it. That's really it. I got no issue with him mucking around with his mates at all.
Look, part of that I disagree with, but it's not how I personally think, but I can understand it. Look, no matter what, and this is a kind of an interesting debate, really, because UFC, I don't think the UFC, I could be wrong, but it seems to me they don't give a rat's about trying to be role models. Do we trip ourselves over by trying to be role models? Like for me, what Reece Walsh did, really, who cares? And it largely comes down to your friend group. So him and his mates might have done that stuff their whole life to get each other. That's what they kind of do. But there's other groups where if you punched a mate in the head, that'd be a big story amongst those mates. It's not really what they do. So I suppose the argument would be that, a 6-year-old goes punches his brother or sister in the head, and they can do that because they saw Reece Walsh do it. No, but that's where we're at these days.
I know, but
I come from an all-boy family, and we're rough and tumble, and if we had a fight, punching each other in the head was a way to make up sometimes. So I understand that, but I'm trying to be better at seeing things more holistically. I don't give a rat's that he did it.
But if you're blaming Reece Walsh for you think that's the worst thing your kid's seen on the internet?
No, that's right.
Come on. What are we talking about here? I'll tell you a story. We got on the drink at the Broncos when I was coming through. We all got blind. We put gloves on and we punched on with each other. Like, it was a drink. It was fun. I had a fight with Joel Yagi. It was awesome.
Who won?
He split me. He won.
Okay.
Josh Hoffman and Corey Norman had a punch on.
Yeah, who won?
Hodjo nearly got in a fight.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe Normie. Mate, who cares?
I know.
Cares? Like, again, as I said, I get it. Silly for posting it.
Yep.
You keep it in private. But, like, this is only a story because the media are making it a story. Do you think there's enough engagement? Like, if this was just a normal NRL player that wasn't Reece Walsh, there wouldn't be enough engagement, so they wouldn't push it.
That's right.
Because
but they're doing their job.
But I know they're doing their job, but they're still pushing it, not because it's a story, because it says Reece Walsh.
Yes.
The Reece Walsh is what makes it a story, not the actual action of what's happening in the video.
No, I agree with that.
So
But they're being the journalists have been measured on attraction to the story, so likes and posts and all that sort of stuff. So
I mean, we could go down a philosophical argument about, journalism has been corrupted by clicks and views rather than truth.
Yeah, a lot of journalists would agree with that.
And so I'm not saying they're doing something wrong with their job. What I am saying is the media is creating and pushing the story.
I don't disagree with that.
It's Walshy. So I get the idea. It was silly to post, but gee, some people are carrying on about this. This is nothing.
It is dumb to post. Okay, so what's the fine going to be? Is it a meaningful fine? Is it out of the console of the car for Reece? What is it? I
understand why the CEO, Donahue, came out quite strong about this because of everything that's going on at the club. The timing is, it makes it worse. I got to admit, though, if the CEO came out and said, listen, silly, but, guys, come on, he wouldn't have to fine him as much. But because he's come out so strong about it, I think he's going to have to actually fine him.
What's your number? What do you reckon it's going to be?
I reckon maybe 10 grand.
10 grand, okay. Right.
Which is outrageous, but... I guess that's the world we live in today. Like,
it's the world we live in.
Oh,
alrighty, let's talk about this. West Tigers. In fact, Mitchie, I think you'll find it's this club. Correct. Well, they're going to kick off Koroisau talks. The Daily Telegraph and Brent Reid, loaf of bread. Koroisau is off contract at the end of next season, making him a prime target for Perth as they prepare to enter the Premiership in 2027. What a great time to be a player. The Tigers are determined to keep them at bay, however. It's understood Koroisau's manager reached out to the club in a bid to get some clarity over their plans for the former New South Wales hooker. Do you expect to see more West Tigers, big players, talk to the club soon to clarify their own position, given everything going on with Gallen, Beaky?
Oh, look, the problem is I think they're not going to do this, but like the NRL's almost going to step in, and because if you think there was an inflation in the market from the Dolphins, imagine what Perth and PNG are going to do. Like we are going to see players that are very average on big wickets.
Correct.
Because managers are just going to continue. How many managers use the Dolphins to get a bigger contract for their current
100%.
player? And their current player never, ever was going to go there.
Every single player off contract will be linked to the Bears.
Yeah, look, I know that they can't because maybe it's a restriction of trade or whatever, but I wish the NRL could somehow put in some kind of, I don't know what you would do, but it's just going to blow the market up. Apisai Koroisau, look, mate, I'll tell you what, his form right now, unbelievable. With Galvin, in regards to Galvin, do you think he should go immediately? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think the Tigers should just get as much as they can for him. If that happens now...
But what does that mean? Like, because I think there's a problem with the cap and I shared this yesterday, so I won't go into long detail.
He shouldn't be able to earn more next year, but he will.
No, that's right.
Yeah, it sucks.
But also, too, from the Tigers' point of view, they are currently going to... Say, for example, he got 700 on the open market. They're giving up a 300,000 or thereabouts item, if you want to call a player an item, for 700,000.
Yeah.
Like who's valued at 700,000 for 300,000. It's not right. Like
as in they're not getting what you think they should.
The way the cap is configured, Beak, is what I'm trying to say is that I don't think they can win. Yeah, they can get compensation for they can get a release clause or whatever it is, but that's not going to affect the cap. You're still going to be losing. You're still going to be giving away a $700,000 player that you've got in the cap for 300,000. And you can't replace it. For example, here's the best way to explain the loophole. If another club had a $700,000 player and Galvin's valued at 700,000 and they say to the club, let's just do a switcheroo. Tigers don't keep that new player at 300. They've got to pay 700 for that new player.
Yep.
So that's the big flaw in the cap that I see. Yeah,
I'm with you. I don't know how you fix it.
No.
I don't like outside of forcing him to stay, because even there was word that they're only asking for 150 grand or something in a transfer fee.
Yeah, but what does that do for the coach? What does that do for the team?
Nothing.
What does that do for the general manager of football? That 150 doesn't go anywhere in the game of playing rugby league. It just sits on their bank balance.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think that I would say that if you put in a rule, and I think the RLPA should push this as well, they're all about, player welfare and all that kind of stuff. If you agitate for a release, you should not be able to earn more than next year at your new club.
I agree.
Because I bet you, let's say, we'll just say Lockie Gavin, and this is a unique situation, but we'll say another player. If that player was on 350, but someone else is saying, we'll pay you $1 million, of course he's going to be like, agitate, get me out of here.
So there's incentive to do that.
Exactly. Whereas if they said, the RLPA and the NRL came down and said, no. If you want to leave and it's for real reasons, your family or whatever, you stay on the amount you're in. I reckon there'd be a lot less people coming out. And I also think it protects the players that actually left for less money. I remember when I left the Warriors, I took like $100,000 pay cut. Just because it had nothing to do with money and everything to do with I wasn't happy. I was going through so much problems off the field that I just wanted to get back home into Australia. And so, but obviously I'm a much smaller player. No one gives a crap about it. But like, there are some players that does happen, but they get painted with the same brush as the player that was on $300,000 and he's going to $1 million.
Yep.
So I'm with you, mate. The salary cap is. There are a lot of ways that player managers just manipulate the hell out of it.
Well, okay, there we go. We're on the same page there. Michael Carianis, by the way, is reporting that Tallyn Da Silva, he'll test the open market if Koroisau re-signs, which you can understand that. He feels now as he's a tried and true first grader. If Koroisau was to re-sign, I think Tallyn Da Silva could see himself wearing the starting jumper, number 9, elsewhere. So that's been reported by Michael Carianis. Jai is hoping to move up to meet a heavyweight. Well, the Dolphins are coming to Sydney to meet a heavyweight of the competition. Tonight on SEN, you'll have that on Accor Stadium. That's the game live on SEN. Jimmy Smith with the call. A host of Bulldogs are out. Some of it due to performance, some of it due to injury. Of course, Crichton and King, they go to State of Origin. Likewise, Mann for the Queensland side, but no Kiraz, no Saluka Fafita. Josh Curran does return. Blake Wilson comes into the centres. Bailey Haywood at lock and Blake Taff into the centres. So that's a big difference, isn't it? Blake Taff in that right centre position compared to Crichton. The Dolphins lose the hammer and they lose Tommy Gilbert through injury. Averillo, the former Bulldog, could he be the story? He wears the number 1 jersey, Beaky.
Oh, it could be. Absolutely, it could be. He's got plenty of speed. Always been a little bit of a question around Averillo's defence. However, I do believe he's improved it quite a lot, Averillo. There's always been a problem with the right side defence of the Dolphins. And Wolfie has done his best to improve it. It's just the problem with the Dolphins is like they've just got to find some kind of, not even just consistency game to game, but just in-game consistency. I understand last week they got some really tough calls against them. What I will give them credit for is like, I know they're not going the best on the table, but usually when Wayne Bennett leaves, teams just go, like, they just free fall.
Yep.
And the Dolphins, even though they're not getting as many wins as you would hope, they're definitely not free-falling. They do look like they're building something. Katoa looks like he's playing his best footy he's ever played. Herbie Farnworth looking strong, powerful, fast. And so with the Dolphins, just about hanging in there because it'll turn. The season will turn for them. Well,
it started quite slow and you thought, oh, holy doolies, this team on their way to a spoon. But to his credit, Coach Wolf is hanging there. 50% winning strike rate since Crichton's been there when he's been absent at the Bulldogs. So 50% since he joined the Bulldogs. Without him, it's been 50%. All righty. Final tip. What's your tip? I'm going the Dolphins in an upset.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go the Doggies. I think they've just proven that over and over, next man up kind of mentality. So yeah, I'm going to go the Doggies, get the job done.
I've got the Fins up. Weather to suit Fins, by the way. I just think the Dogs won't give them any more than 3 tries, so they're going to have to win 16-12, something like that. We'll see how that plays out. Eels take on the Seagulls Friday, 8 p.m, Combank Stadium. No Moses and Lomax. Dean Hawkins to start at halfback. Now, some data that I came across this week, Beaky, is the one game they played together, which was the last game, Lomax and Moses, this year. The team ran for about 1,900 metres, which typically if you crack 1,800 metres, you're going to win the game. The sole game this year where Parramatta had neither Lomax or Moses, they ran for about 1,300 metres. So that's a combination of the backfield, Lomax with the big carries, Moses with a big kicking game. Both them missing is a big concern. I'm leaning the way of Manly.
Yeah, for this one, and I've been saying this all week to Eels fans, and this is not a cop-out at all, but I personally, if I was Eels fans, I wouldn't be looking at whether they win or lose. What I would be looking at is, Remember how all those juniors played in round 1?
Yep.
How much have they improved since round 1 without Mitchell Moses? And then that'll give you a good indication of how far they've come as a club. Because they look terrible round 1, like genuine reserve grade team.
Yep.
And that's no disrespect. I played a lot of reserve grade myself. If they have improved as much as we would hope, that's a great sign for Isles. So they might not win the game, but if you've got guys like Riley Smith and Katonga on the edges that are I don't know, 1.5 times the player they were 10 rounds ago, then that's a good win for the club, in my opinion.
But not just improving rookies like Jack Williams last week.
It was great.
That's the best game I've ever seen him play.
Whereas, round 1, these guys were really poor, and so that's what I would be focusing on: is how much better are these players? Because you've got a really good, obvious first 2 rounds to see, or even longer than that, what they were like without Mitch Moses. Then you saw what they're like with them. Now you're going to see them again without Mitch Moses. How much have they improved?
Interesting to see how this plays out. Couple of storylines, of course. You've got, Junior Pilo, he plays game 250. You've got Tommy Turbo left out of the New South Wales side.
I've got him for 2 or more.
So have I.
Yeah,
Sportsbet.
Yeah.
Check out the... you can catch out the Beacon Eye previews on NRL.com.
Every single week. Every
single week. If you're looking for a game preview, go to NRL.com and the Beacon Eye will take you through that. All thanks to the great partners at Sportsbet. The other story is, and you can't tell me this bloke's not going to be motive for a couple of reasons. Jacob Arthur. How many times as a youngster was he in the sheds there at Parramatta? He scored a try in the grand final for Parramatta. His dad gets the Rissole last year, and now he returns to CommBank in the first grade seat as the opposing halfback for
Joey Arthur.
Yeah,
going to go Joey Arthur on him.
Yeah, he's going to go Joey Arthur on him.
Yeah, look, I know that they say it's not a story or whatever, but your old man gets the pun after rebuilding that club. When Brad Arthur took over, I mean, they were a basket case. They were winning spoons, and they he turned them into a grand final side. And I think the jury is still out whether that was a right decision. Now, I don't know whether it was the wrong decision yet either, but I don't think anyone's gone, that was definitely the right decision just yet. We'll find out in the next 12 months. So, of course, I hope he goes really well, and just you want to do well for your old man, surely.
This one from Daz of the Dragon. Joel, your stats read Critter being at 50%. Does that mean Dogs win or lose, whether he plays or not? No, the stat Daz of the Dragon is, since he's been at the club, when he's been absent, they've only won half their games. So that's the stat there. So take that as you like. Panthers take on the Knights. Trappy game. Saturday, 5:30. Carrington Park in Bathurst. Should be cool out there, I would think. Panthers without 5 Origin stars. I think it was Matty White's program today. He was talking about the fact that typically when they roll into Origin, at least the last 5 years or so, they're either running between first and third. Well, they're down the bottom of the table. So now Cleary's taking out these backup players, so to speak, and desperately needs them to find a way to win this. Brad Schneider, the halfback. Dane Laurie, the fullback. Knights no Kalen Ponga, which I actually don't mind. I actually don't mind this. It's going to force someone else to stand up. Fletcher Sharp goes to fullback.
Do you like Fletcher Sharp to fullback?
Well, in this game, I do, yes.
Really?
Yeah, I do. To win the game.
But they've been chopping and changing so much. You've got this young guy who's had 10 games in there. It's like, what's the point?
But I actually think he's a fullback.
I mean, I'm with you. I'm not convinced he's out and out 6 for sure. But, what's the point? KP's your fullback for the next 10 years. If he stays, he's still contracted till 2027. You've got a number 6 who apparently is supposed to partner Dylan Brown next year. And so it's just like, I don't understand the point other than desperation to win right now. But if that's the truth, then if you believe that right now that this halves pairing is the right halves pairing, then why'd you rush the kid in immediately like that?
Yeah. No, I think it's more about, so for me, right, and they won't go back and try this again because in their eyes, they'll see it as a failed experiment. I know Fletcher Sharp has scored some tries, right? But that doesn't mean you're a true... Well, here's an example. Luke Brooks won the Dally M halfback of the year. Does that mean he was the best halfback in the comp? No, it means he was the halfback who got the most points. Now, what I mean by that is that, you can win games not playing in a typical halfback manner. I'm not convinced that Fletcher Sharp is a 5'8", despite the fact that he's scored a hat-trick in a game and otherwise. I actually do think that the Knights would be a better side with Fletcher Sharp at fullback and Ponga at 6.
Here's to further your point in regards to... Now, I don't agree with Ponga at 6 because that defence it's a problem. But here's to further your point, though.
Yep.
Brandon Smith won Dally M Hooker of the Year. A lot of the time, he wasn't playing hooker for the Storm. He would play 10 minutes there, and then he would jump in one of the forwards. And so they gave him Dally hooker because he started there, but a lot of the game, he'd be probably playing more minutes in the forwards than at hooker. I just don't. I think the Kalen Ponga in the front line, it's just he doesn't have the defence for it. He's got the toughness for it. In a one-on-one tackle, he's got the technique for it, but it's those little split-second things you learn. And I know this better than anyone being a soccer player. There's so many things that didn't come naturally to me as a first. Even just passing the ball, I was always thinking about it, like the little details of like hands here, follow through, direction where the pass is going to be. And with KP being a fullback his whole career, he just doesn't have those little markers in his head. Okay, I need to put my head on the left side because they're running like, all those little details that you build up over 20 years of your career. I just don't know if he could be in the front line for defence.
Bottom line, they've got to change things. I'm tipping the Knights, actually. I think the Knights can win this.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'm going to go Penrith.
Penrith.
Yeah, I'm going to go Penrith because, I don't know, I just can't back the Knights at the moment. I just can't. I'm sorry.
No, fair enough. From Accor Stadium to Combank Stadium, off to Penrith we go, and now we go to Industry Group Stadium in Gosford. The Roosters take on the Sharkies. The Roosters. So I tell you what, the State of Origin selections play no part into where your team's coming on the ladder because the Sharkies have no stars out for Origin.
Mate, this is what I say. The Sharkies never get any credit for what they're doing as a club. They had all these different teams in the grand final, or in the final, last year.
Yep.
They've currently got a roster that has no Origin players in it. No Origin players in it. They've obviously got Adam Blake, who would be playing Origin if he was eligible, all that good stuff. And yet, I would consider them a premiership heavyweight. Fitzy's in his 3rd or 4th year as coach. Like, I don't think they get enough credit.
No.
Like, he didn't come into that club with this unbelievable roster. And, he walked into a club that was finishing 10th, that had a lot of legends moving on at the time. He's had to rebuild this, and also the Sharkies have done it too. I think Morris helped it initially, and to a degree. I don't think Fitzy or the Sharkies get enough credit because when they were struggling, all the headlines were about Hines and where he should be. Where are all the headlines now when they're going well?
And well done to Nico Hines too because he's copped a lot of noise.
Mate,
but
he's
flying.
He's a small club. He's the halfback at a small club in his 3rd or 4th year as a half. The amount of headlines, you'd think he's been playing halfback at one of the glamour clubs since he was 18.
Yeah, no, fair say that is. Warriors take on the Raiders Sunday afternoon, Go Media Stadium, and largely unaffected by Origin. So the Raiders are without Hudson Young, Warriors without Mitch Barnett, James Fisher-Harris has a suspension. So, I mean, yes, they are affected, but not so much as some of the other ones. Debut for Noah Martin, he comes onto the bench for the Raiders. His brother, Jordan Martin, has debuted already recently. This is a big game. Warriors got the perfect run in New Zealand this year so far, but they started off the year in Vegas, the pair, and they were ordinary, the Warriors. They have improved out of sight since then. Go Media Stadium, haven't been there for a month or so, Kempy. This is a big game.
Huge game. They've been on the road quite a bit, the Warriors. It's not getting enough talk, to be honest. It's a top-of-the-table clash.
Yep.
You got a team from Canberra. You got a team from New Zealand. And, whether we like to admit it or not, because we are a Sydney-ish based game, but obviously Brisbane as well, we don't talk about the Raiders and the Warriors as much. I'd even argue North Queensland doesn't get as much love as they probably should. And I think this game is not getting anywhere near the love. We're talking about two sides that, if you give them both buys, they're sitting equal on the ladder in second. You're talking about a Raiders side who had the Bulldogs done, and they're a premiership threat. You could argue Warriors are potentially a premiership threat as well. This is a huge clash. Because one team will go outright second, whoever gets the win. And I think also it'll be a good indication of who does have the best forward pack in the comp. Now, granted, the Warriors are missing 2 key players in Fisher-Harris and also Barnett. But the Raiders are missing Hudson Young as well. So this is a huge clash, in my opinion.
Yeah, can't wait. This is a massive, massive game. The Warriors announced yesterday, Beaky, that they have extended the young guns, Halasima, Leka Halasima and Jacob Laban, until the end of 2029. So there's a couple of cracking signings for them.
Oh, huge. And these guys are, the one issue with some of the Warriors youth over the past have been talent has never been an issue. It's what do they do in all the 1% players. And what's been different about this crop of generation, this young Warriors players, is they all do the 1%ers really, really well. And Webster's instilled that. Now James Fisher-Harris is there to instill it. Barnett's there to instill it. And that's the difference between these young guys is they don't go out and every once a month they have this incredible game or they're rocks and diamonds. These guys are consistently playing good footy at a really young age.
What he's done, I know that Serraldo would be a front runner for the Coach of the Year, and rightly so. He's had a cracking year. But I just can't get over what Coach Webster has achieved. What Ricky's achieved likewise, but Coach Webster, like you lose Sean Johnson, Adam Fanua-Blake, and one of the rugby league greats, Tohu Harris, retires. It's amazing what he's achieved. In saying that, this is a big game. The winner can seriously start thinking about top 4, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go across the other side, Ricky Stewart, the Raiders were the favourite for the spoon this year.
Yeah, that's right.
They're sitting second.
Yeah, he's done a great job, Rick.
Incredible.
Sugar, with self-imposed media bans on in the Blues, can you see in the future where players will use only their own media channels, podcasts, etc., to conduct interviews, control the narrative?
Won't happen.
No.
Won't happen. You know why? Because the Blues and the Queensland and the NRL won't let it happen. So there's something that a lot of fans don't know is that in your contracts, they essentially own your IP as a person.
Yep.
So if they wanted to, they could actually say to every NRL player, no social media posts, even though that's technically not legal. Like it's like to suggest that they fully own the rights of a player because they signed a contract. However, it does say that in the contract. So in Blues camp, for example, they would be saying to the players, you're only mostly approved posts. Now, don't get me wrong, there'd be a few ones, but they would say things like, you're not allowed your phones out at training,
Yep.
you're not allowed to film any of the stuff inside the locker rooms. Like right now, for example, let's say I was going to go to the Brisbane Broncos and say, I want to film a vlog.
Yep.
I would get a full rundown of things I am not allowed to film, areas I'm not allowed to film, and it's just the way it is. So you'll never, eventually maybe the RLPA will be able to push hard enough to get that, but right now, the NRL and like QRL, New South Wales, they all actually have the power to say, nope, not allowed to post that.
Okay, that's interesting. There you go. So MG Brisbane, I hope that answered that for you. And just on that too, by the way, I actually think the game is flying, for the product. There's no doubt about that. But the main reason I think the game flying is, number one, in my opinion, has been the evolution of the NRLW and dragging in, the many, many female supporters and participants into the game. I think that's the number one reason why the game's flying. Number two reason is sites like yourself, Bloke in a Bar. I think that all this promotion, I know AFL have, but I think we do it better than any sport that I've seen. This, the sites like yourself.
Well, we NRL was first.
Yep.
Like, we have many more non-mainstream podcasts that are some of the, like if you go and look at the top 10 podcasts each Monday on sports, so top 10 sports podcast, at least 3 or 4 of them will be, or at least 3 of them will be NRL podcasts.
Wow.
Whereas usually it's probably maybe one, and even if it is an AFL, so it'll be Dan Does Footy, so Dan Gorringe. He'll be one that's up there quite high. But outside of that, if it's an AFL one, it's usually a media-owned AFL.
Gotcha.
But for example, there's no Bloke in a Bar in AFL.
Yes, where there's a Channel 9 or Channel 7 in AFL Rugby League having their media-owned. Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
No, I understand. You can follow us on Instagram at Joel Fletch SEN, and don't forget the YouTube drops at 7:30 every night. A compilated version is the way to do that. Now, we haven't really spoken about Origin, and we won't get too bogged down on it just yet, Kempy, but we kind of think there's a way you could do it better.
I tell you what, I've had enough.
Yep.
I've been sitting here fuming this whole time, and you haven't allowed me to do it. And we'll talk it. Me, you, HR later.
Yeah, that bee in that bonnet's getting louder.
It's getting louder and louder, and I'm finally giving permission to talk about it. Because, Sugar, I've had enough.
Righto.
We have the best sporting event in the country.
Guilty.
Generates, what do you reckon it generates? 150 million?
Write your own check.
Whatever you want.
Yep.
Generate 50 to 100 million. I mean, there's a reason why Nine go, just give us one game a week or whatever, or 1 or 2 games or whatever it is, because we've got Origin.
Yep.
That's what generates the most profit for them, is Origin. So we've got this crazy Origin, 50 to 100 million generated, probably about 50 million profit for the networks. And with teams getting leaked all the week before it, just randomly posts on social media going, this is going to be the side this week. What are we doing?
Yep.
No team should be getting leaked. There should be a Sunday night network, television, whatever you want, at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever you want.
Love it.
It should be exactly like the draft or a version of that. And we should have it. No one has any idea who the team's going to be. It gets announced live on television. We had all the sponsors. Each announcement could be sponsored by a different brand.
Yep.
Make a bunch of money. Make it the highest rated TV show, arguably of the year. That's all we want to know.
Yep.
Any clubs that start leaking stuff, any journos that start leaking stuff, punish them. Don't make it so that it doesn't happen like that, so that we actually got this one gem. It's the gem in Australian sport that happens every single year, And we're getting people find out just on Instagram. Oh, here's a little Instagram page I follow. Oh, yeah, good. There's a team. Thanks, good. What are we doing?
No, I agree. And the thing is, and I get the race from the journos and the contacts, and it is a big breaking story to reveal the team. However, a bit like the Dally M's, if you got wind of who was going to win the Dally M, it's very uncool, isn't it, to come out and spoil the party, so to speak. If we made it uncool to spoil the party and we had this big reveal, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's why that bee's in that bonnet. That bee is now out of the bonnet and we can march on. I've been looking forward to this chat, folks. Mark Bosnich, all thanks to Stan Sport. You can catch the Champions League final on June 1. The Champions League will have a team in it next year by the name of Tottenham Hotspurs. And our man Bozza joins us. G'day, Boz.
Afternoon, Joel. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Excellent, mate. What about it, hey? So he gets the big win. He promised everyone that's what he does in year 2, and he's a serial winner.
Well, he did. And congratulations to him, and congratulations to all the Spurs players, his staff. He has 2 Australians on his staff as well, Nick Montgomery and Mila Jedinak, the board, and especially their fans worldwide. I think everyone who watched all this morning all around the world would have seen the relief on those fans' faces. Their first major trophy in 17 years. And out of a season with such darkness, they've lost 21 games out of 37 in the Premier League. They got knocked out of both domestic cup competitions. To win this competition, and for the first time they've won a European trophy in 41 years, Joel, and for them to qualify for next year's Champions League. And for Ange as well, who's come under a lot of criticism this season. Some justified, some totally out of order. So happy for them all. Although, like I said, as an ex-Manchester United player, disappointed, but not as disappointed as I normally would be.
Yeah, 1-0. 1-0, Beaky. They got the cash.
Yeah, they got the cash, mate. I guess it's such a hard one because he's done something historic with the club, but obviously the Premier League hasn't gone great. Has he done enough to keep his job?
Well, I hope so, Dan. Look, there's 3 options here. I spoke to somebody 2 weeks ago who's well in the know in England about all things, and little caveat here before I say this. He did say this to me. He said, remember, we don't quite 100% know, nor will we maybe ever know what's going on behind closed doors, because normally if 2 parties part ways, especially in sport, a non-disclosure agreement signed, and we don't quite know what's going on. But he said to me that he had heard from a good source that he'd be gone whether he won this trophy or not.
Wow.
Somebody else I spoke to said to me the other week that Ange might resign if he wins it and sort of go out on the high. My personal opinion after listening to everyone is that I think he's earned the right after winning this trophy to get some more time. Like I said, it's been a very, very poor season, but it'll take, honestly, it would take so much wind out of their sails, in my opinion, if Tottenham as a club sack him now after what's going on. I really think, like I said, winning this major trophy after what's going on should be enough to get him some more time. But plenty of things have happened, and we know that from any sport. We know that, a week's a long time in politics, but in sport, a day's a long time. So a lot of things can happen. But I'm just thinking from a club's perspective, to do that, after their supporters worldwide are so happy, I think you're risking a massive backlash just for the sake of whatever's going on behind closed doors that we're not fully aware of.
And look, I don't know in depth about the Premier League and how it all, works from a distance, but I look at it and I go, if you were to get rid of him, what's different? Like, they're not going to win a premiership in the next year. They're not going to win the comp in the next even probably 2 years. You look at the history. Yeah, okay, there have been years when they've been around 4th or 5th, I think. But it's like, unless there is an incredible manager that just becomes available, almost like a Bellamy or a Bennett in NRL, why would you do it? What's the point?
Well, I think that's a very good point, Dan, what you made. Exactly. This is what leads me, because when my friend said to me what he said, we don't quite know what's going on behind closed doors. Look, one of my ex-chairmen at Aston Villa, he's passed away now, bless his soul, his nickname was Deadly Doug Ellis. And he used to always say to me, look, 99.9% of the time, a battle between the player and a head coach, the head coach will win. But he used to look at me and say, but 100% of the time, any head coach who battles with me, the owner, I'm going to win. So unless there's something behind the, you know what it's like with egos and things or arguments. If you have that type of owner of a club who's that has got that streak in him where if you cross him too many times, even whether it be arguments, sometimes they can just just off the top of their head, just go, right, that's it, you're gone, and sort of not mention anything again and not change their mind. So unless something's going on that we're not privy to, that we don't really know, because I'm with you, I don't think they're in the position to challenge for the league for at least, if it not even more, another 3 seasons. They're in the Champions League. I don't think they'll have as bad a season next season that they will in the league. And they could really have a chance to build. The only thing is, there isn't someone like a Bellamy or a Bennett available. But what there is, there's a lot of people, a lot of top managers who are out of work. And the Premier League pays the most in terms of their players and to their managers. So as much as there's a lot of solidarity between all the managers around the world, once somebody turns around and says, listen, I know you got a soft spot for Ange and so forth, but I'm going to offer you £10 million a year to take his job for 3 years. Wow. Normally, 9 times out of 10 people would just go, okay, I'll ring him up and tell him, look, I'm really sorry, mate, but I'm taking your job.
Well, okay, here is Ange, by the way. Let's see if we read into any of this, gents. Ange, on if he thinks he'll stay on at the Spurs.
Mate, I'm a winner. I've been a serial winner my whole career. It's what I've done more than anything else, and I know people talk about my football, which I'm very proud of, and I know people dismiss my achievements because, they didn't happen to happen on this side of the world, but for me, they're all hard-earned, and obviously the way things have gone in the league, people are rightly to be concerned about. I said, I don't think there's a true reflection of where we're at. But whatever happens, I've my own sort of belief in what I do doesn't waver, and I'll continue to kind of push on to do what I do.
What do you read there, Boz?
Yeah, good on him. Good on him. I think what he's basically saying there is that regardless of where he goes or if he's there next season, he will win trophies. And he's got every right to say that because of his previous record. Some of the dismissing has come about. Some of it's been agenda-driven, and I don't really like even what he was. I won't even mention what he was called the other day in the press conference. I thought that was really out of order. Others has been justified in terms of, the English league, the German league, the Spanish and the Italian, and possibly the French. I would say that's more half. But those 4 leagues, they are the top leagues in the world. So you do get a lot of skepticism, in terms of when you win things in other places. That's understandable. You're still going to go and win them, and you can only beat who's in front of you. The thing, what he's really up against, and I've seen this obviously firsthand, it was a little bit different for me, as I was a little bit lucky because I went over when I was at such a young age. But when you are from what is considered amongst the big nations, still say a second-tier footballing nation like Australia, you have to be better than the rest. And like I said, manager is a very coveted job, not only from the money perspective, but from the power perspective. I was an outfield player and I was a goalkeeper, so I had less competition. So it's a highly competitive thing. So when you're not only just as good, but when you're below average, people are going to come after you. But the bottom line is, he's right. He won in Australia, he won in Japan, and he won in Scotland. Now he's won at the very top level in the second-tier European competition. And I think regardless of what occurs, he'll always have that on his CV. And that's a wonderful thing to happen because then, future employers will look at that and say, well, look at all the problems he had this season with injuries and this, that, and the other, and people giving him stick. But he come up trumps, and he won a competition that very few people in the world can turn around and hold their hands up and say that they've won that competition. So we'll see. Time will tell, just like everything. But one thing, like I said, that he's done no harm to himself whatsoever in future job prospects, especially after that, because his reputation took a bit of a hammering this season with all those defeats.
Hey, Boz, well done once again, mate. We'll talk next ahead of the Champions League. That final's on the 1st of June. You can catch that on Stan Sport. PSG versus Inter Milan. We're looking forward to that. Look forward to the next catch-up. See you, Boz.
Take care, guys. Stan Sport and Channel 9 as well.
Beautiful. There you go. The great Bozza. He packs a big punch, folks. Jai Opetaia. Welcome to the run home with Joel and Fletch.
Hey, boys. How are you? Thanks for having me, man.
Jai, we're talking about cold Sydney weather. How do you like to spend your days? What's the meal of choice? Are you going the toasty? Are you going the soup? Or maybe 2-minute noodles? What's the Jai Opetaia breakout food on a wet, dreary day?
Mate, when I broke my jaw after that third world title fight, I was living off 2-minute noodles, So I was kind of off those. So I was living off them for about 4 months. So, man, I love a toasty. So, fuck.
What's the toasty go? What's your main toasty? Are you just going the cheese or are you throwing something on it?
Nah, you got to have tomato in there, mate. You got to have melted cheese, tomato, and ham. That's just the classic, but, I think it ticks every box.
Listen, like I don't want to start a war here, mate, but there's no tomato on a toasty. What are we doing, boss? What are we doing?
Mate, you're joking. You got to be joking. You have to have a bit of tomato on there, mate.
Mate,
All right.
Your last fight against Nikia, it was an absolute slugfest. Absolute slugfest. Now, I'm sure you're aware, you're probably not going to go into every fight like that. Preparing for this fight, what do you reckon you're going to do differently for this fight? Because last fight was a very unique fight, having known Nikia and everything like that.
Yeah, it was good, man. That fight, good build-up. The fight was awesome. I got a lot of respect for David Naika and the way he come out. I actually left the ring with more respect than I did going in there. So it was a good fight. Hat off to him. But this fight's a completely different ball game. It's this fight we've been focusing on the boxing and getting hit less and just really picking our shots and being patient.
So you got 21 knockouts, a perfect 27 and duck egg, Jai. But this guy here, the Italian, Claudio Squeo, you'll meet him on the 8th of June. He's 17 and duck egg as well. So he's going well, and he's ranked by the IBF at number 14 in the cruiserweight standings. Is it a trappy fight? Are you confident about it? And what's the big picture? So if you knock him over, you've got the 2 belts. What's the next plan of attack?
Man, we got a fight to take care of first. We don't look past opponents and we don't take them easy. This is a tough fight, the number 1 Italian cruiserweight. But once we've done this, we're chasing unification fights. We're chasing the other belts. There's another 3 belts out there, another 2 world champions out there. So, I'd love to get my hands on one of those guys.
And, mate, unfortunately, you're a Blues fan. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, mate. What the hell's going on here? Tomato, fucking Queensland. Oh, no, mate, you joking, are you? Jesus.
He's lost the plot,
yeah, man. I'm a hard out Blues supporter, bro. I'm born and raised down in New South Wales, so.
Oh, just surprising that you obviously live on the Gold Coast now. That's all I just wanted to throw out there now as a Queenslander.
I'll tell you what, Jai.
I'm based up in the Goldie now.
Sadly, I last saw Jai at a funeral, and it was a great mate of ours, Paulie Griffin, and it was a very sad. We won't get into the circumstances, but very, very sad. Now, Paulie Griffin sadly passed away on Melbourne Cup Day, and Jai, what about that? Some months later, Paul, who owns a horse, it comes out and wins the Sydney Cup. And that gets he and his family a golden ticket into the Melbourne Cup. So they're all heading down there, the Griffin family, to the Melbourne Cup at the end of this year. What a story that could be if they could get their horse 100%. Over the line there.
Man, I'll be putting the house on it. So, man, let's go Griffo, bro.
Yeah.
Griffo's been one of my supporters and, he's been my longest sponsor since I was a little kid going to the Olympics. I qualified at 16. So, he was a massive part of this journey. So, it's a shame that he's not here today, but, man, I've got no doubt he's looking down with a big smile and a beer in his hand.
Yeah, Arapaho, the horse too, by the way, Beaky. So if you want a little omen for the Melbourne Cup, we'll all be getting behind that. Let's talk about this Ramirez. So that's the guy that, I know you don't want to look past things, but he has got 2 belts, hasn't he? 2 of the other belts. What would stop him from wanting to fight you? Like, obviously the stop would be the fear of losing, but is there an obligation for him to take you on?
Man, I just don't understand what other option there is. Me and him are the top cruiserweights and we've both got, 2 belts each. So I don't understand why the fight hasn't happened yet. It's he's obviously dragged it on a bit longer, so he's got to do his mandatory, but I'm really hoping after the mandatory we get that fight over the line. But these are the fights that us champions should be chasing, is the unification fights and the progress fights.
100%, and that's what the viewers want. What's stopping it? Like, what's his camp? Is Eddie talking to them? What are they saying?
And honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I think he thinks there's easier fights out there. He gets to hold the belt for a bit longer and sort of get easier fights and cruise on through and get on some more big cards and stuff like that. But man, I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I just focus on myself and trying to get these fights over the line. It's frustrating, but unfortunately that's how boxing works.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, mate, is that the frustrating thing about boxing? And sometimes you look across at UFC, and don't get me wrong, the UFC have their issues as well, but in boxing there is this real easy ability padding your record isn't necessarily the perfect, especially when you're as high as Ramirez. But there is an ability to go, okay, risk versus reward. I can get the same payday, but I'm fighting a guy that's nowhere near. Is that frustrating as a fighter that genuinely is trying to win belts? That's the main priority for you?
Definitely, man. It's frustrating that, I got this goal in my head to become undisputed, and just the way it's dragging on and stuff like that, it is. I feel like all champions should be trying to fight the best, and I honestly believe you're not the best until you beat me. So, he can say what he wants and dance around the question, but man, I'm ready, and I've been ready. I've been trying to get this fight over the line for quite a while. So,
Chatting with world champion Jai Opetaia. Hey, Jai, who did you craft your skill on growing up? Was there an Australian boxer perhaps, or maybe an international boxer that you tried to be similar to?
Man, with me and, the way I was growing up, I sort of take little bits from everywhere. I take a left hook from him or a bit of defense from him, feet work from him, and I try and build it into my own type of style. So, there's not one specific fighter that I try and mimic. It's just I'm taking bits and pieces to sort of improve my game.
Gallen versus Sonny Bill Williams. Who wins that?
Mate, I actually got a lot of respect for both of those boys. This is a big fight. It's been dragging on for quite a while. Sonny's actually doing his camp with us, so
right.
He's come up and he's been training with us every day. So, I'm going to be training alongside Sonny, and I'm going to be trying to teach Sonny how to beat Gal. But you can't knock Gal's hard work, man. It's undeniable. So, man, it's interesting. But I'm going to have to be in Sonny's corner because, he's we got to teach him how to beat him.
It's going to be a big fight, but your one's ahead of that. We're looking forward to this one. It is the Italian Claudio Squeo on the 8th of June, Jai. He is 17-0, taking on your good self, world champion, 27-0, 21 knockouts. That's going to be an absolute beauty. You can catch the fight on DAZN. You head to the DAZN website. June 9th on the Gold Coast. We're looking forward to that, mate. And then we're looking ahead to Ramirez. I know you're not, but we certainly are, mate. And we look forward to that one day coming together. Thanks for joining us, Jai, on the Run Home with Joel and Today Den and Kemp.
Thank you, boys. I appreciate you having me.
Great fella.
Thanks,
Great fella, Jai Opetaia, world champion. In fact, the only Australian world champion right at this minute. Male world champion,
and not just like world champion because he got a belt by some, strange little way. He's gone and got the belt through the hardest road possible. I mean, he's fought Bradis twice. Bradis is the only person that went to a split decision with Usyk.
Wow.
And so the resume that Opetaia has. By the way, Opetaia, he is the boogeyman of his division.
Yep.
And Ramirez doesn't want a bar of it because it is the hardest fight in the division. Ramirez knows that, and I agree with Opetaia, and not just because I'm a big fan of Opetaia or mates with him. Genuinely, I believe that he's got the belts at the moment. Ramirez, at least two of them. So he's sitting there going, if I fight Opetaia immediately, I could lose them like in that first fight. Why not try and get a few fights in between, earn a bit of cash? And that's why I try to discuss. That's the frustrating thing about boxing. Everyone knows it should be Ramirez versus Opetaia. Like, everyone knows it. You've got Opetaia saying, I'll fight you in a car park.
Yeah.
But because of the way boxing's set up, these things don't happen as quickly as they should. You look at Manny Pacquiao and Floyd. For so many years, that should happen. And it didn't. So I've got no doubt he's 29 years old, Opetaia. He's our best boxer by far in this country.
Yep.
And it's not even a competition. I'd argue to the death. He's our best boxer currently.
Is he understated, you reckon? Do you reckon he's understated?
Massively, because he went the different route. Like, all jokes aside or whatever, like boxing, yes, it is prize fighting. So if you go with certain promoters, you're going to get promoted in Australia quite a lot. But at the same time, if you're Jai Opetaia, you don't want to be stuck in Australia for the first 10 years of your career. You want to go over to America or over wherever you need to go. And so that's why you might need to be with different promoters. And also, Jai Opetaia is an incredibly loyal fighter. So he's been with Tasman fighters since he was like young as anything. And I'm sure he's been approached by a lot of people when he started winning a lot to move on. And he hasn't. He stayed loyal. He's done all the right things. Like, we always talk about like back blokes that want to scrap anyone, anywhere, and it's not about the money. That's what Opetaia is. And Australia needs to get around him more because he is our best fighter by far. He's 29 years old. He's our youngest ever Olympian. And he's not just he's a technician if he needs to be, but he can also knock people out cold in that division. So he's an excitement machine. He's the real deal. He won his first world title against Braiders. Again, the guy that had a split decision against Usyk, who's gone on to be arguably one of the best heavyweights ever, and he's also one of the greatest pound-for-pound fighters ever. In the second or third round, he broke one side of his jaw. In the first, this is when he first fought. He would have been about 26 years old, 27 years old. Later in the round, like round 9 or 10, he broke the other side of his jaw. So much so, when he won the world championship, they're trying to interview him. He couldn't talk.
Oh, wow.
Went to the doctor after it. The doctor said, I've never seen anything like it, because usually when they snap one half of the jaw, they stop. He snapped both halves.
Oh.
It was hanging in his skin. And he fought through rounds against one of the most dangerous fighters in the world to win a world title. It is, if you think Rocky is good, that's the real Rocky story. It's actually happened. I tell you right now, if you want to watch one of the greatest feats of boxing, go back and watch Opetaia versus Braiders #1. It's one of the greatest achievements any Australian fighter's ever had. And I know I'm not some aficionado, know everything about boxing. I'm a casual observer. I haven't experienced professionally like I have rugby league. But I tell you what, at least in my experience, it's one of the greatest feats I've ever seen.
Well said, Beaky. Well said. So go and catch up on that first fight against Braiders, says the Beak, and then you can catch the fight on DAZN. Head to the DAZN website, June 9th on the Gold Coast. Jai Opetaia taking on the Italian Claudio Squeo. What, you're still here? Well, you can see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio, you beautiful humans.